I used to believe family meant safety. That when the world spun out of control, you could hold on to them, and they'd hold you back. That's what Ethan was to me. My cousin, my closest friend, my refuge in a storm. We grew up together. We weren't siblings by blood, but we were raised like we were. He moved into our home when we were both 9. I remember how quiet he was at first, how he wouldn't talk to anyone but me. I was the one who made him laugh again. We became inseparable. From childhood into our 20s, we never lost touch. Holidays, birthdays, life events, we were side by side. It wasn't just familiarity. It was a bond that felt unbreakable. I didn't realize how deeply embedded he was in my life until I started dating Daniel. Daniel was sweet, grounded, always calm. We met in college and started living together after graduation. Ethan was always around, always helpful. When Daniel had to travel for work, sometimes for weeks at a time, Ethan would check in on me, bring dinner, fix things around the apartment. It never felt strange. It felt like family looking out for me. There were moments, though subtle ones, that caught me off guard. The way Ethan would look at me when he thought I wasn't watching. Compliments that lingered a little too long. A comment about how Daniel should take better care of what he has. I'd laugh it off. I thought I knew him. I thought I could trust him. I convinced myself that I was imagining things, that I was making it more than it was. It's dangerous how easily we excuse what we don't want to see. I remember one night, Daniel was overseas, and I was feeling low. Work had been stressful. I'd argued with Daniel over the phone, and I just didn't want to be alone. I texted Ethan. He came over with wine, and that easy smile he always wore when he knew I needed comfort. We talked for hours, the kind of conversation that feels like slipping into something familiar and warm. He told me how proud he was of me, how no one understood me the way he did. He said Daniel didn't deserve someone like me. I didn't stop him when he reached for my hand. I didn't pull away when he leaned in closer. I told myself it was comfort, just comfort. But something shifted in that silence between us. I knew something had begun, and it terrified me. Still, I told myself it was nothing. Just a moment. Family has moments. People slip. I wouldn't let it go further. But what I didn't understand, what I refused to admit, was that Ethan wasn't slipping. He was slowly, intentionally, stepping over a line I hadn't drawn clearly enough. And I was too emotionally entangled to see the danger. Looking back, I should have seen it sooner. You don't expect to be betrayed by someone who's shared your childhood. But betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes, it comes from the people you'd never think to guard your heart against. After that night, I told myself nothing had really happened. A brief lapse. I could ignore it, erase it. But Ethan didn't let it fade. He texted more often, asked when Daniel would be gone next. His words grew bolder. Things like, "You looked beautiful last night," or "I've never felt this close to anyone." I didn't respond the way I should have. I wasn't firm. I didn't stop him. I was flattered, confused, and too emotionally reliant on him to think clearly. It felt safe, wrong, but familiar. I started hiding things from Daniel, deleting texts, turning my phone over when we were together. That's when I knew it had already crossed a line. Ethan played it well. He never made demands. He never pushed hard. He just kept showing up, checking on me, talking about our shared past, making me laugh when I felt alone. He knew exactly where to insert himself, exactly when I was weakest. Daniel, though kind, had grown distant. His job consumed him, and I resented how unavailable he was. I didn't talk to him about my loneliness. I talked to Ethan instead. The moment it truly shifted was subtle. Another night, another bottle of wine. We were watching something on TV, talking about nothing, but the tension between us was thick. I asked him to go home. He stood up, then stopped in front of me and said, "Just tell me you haven't felt it too." I said nothing. He kissed me again. This time, I kissed him back. There was no alcohol to blame. No fight with Daniel. I was fully aware. I wanted it. That truth makes me sick even now. Afterward, guilt hit hard. I cried in the shower. I couldn't look at myself. I told Ethan it couldn't happen again. He didn't argue. He said he understood. But the next day, He sent a message that shattered my resolve. Lying to yourself won't make you love him more. That line stuck in my head like poison. I hated how much it resonated. I kept telling myself I was in control, that I was just confused, not committed to anything. But I was already in deep. Emotionally, I was tethered to Ethan. He knew how to say what I needed to hear. He'd been there through every heartbreak, every disappointment. He knew which buttons to press. I convinced myself Daniel wouldn't notice, that I could manage both lives. But things changed. Ethan grew possessive. He started asking questions about Daniel, criticizing him more directly.
He's not even around.
Why are you still pretending with him? I didn't have answers. I only had shame. I started to pull away, but it was like quicksand. The more I tried to distance myself, the more entangled I felt. I couldn't admit the truth to anyone, not even to myself. I wasn't just cheating on my partner. I was breaking something sacred with someone who had once felt like a brother. And I knew, deep down, that the damage I was doing would eventually be impossible to undo. Daniel wasn't stupid. He didn't accuse me outright, but he noticed the changes. How distant I'd become. How my phone never left my side. How I stopped mentioning Ethan altogether. I could feel his suspicion growing. He became more attentive, more present, but it didn't come from love. It came from doubt. He started asking questions in subtle ways, trying to catch me slipping. And I did. One night, I left my phone on the couch. A message from Ethan lit up the screen. I miss you. Last night was everything. I came back into the room and saw Daniel holding it, his face blank, unreadable. He didn't yell. He just asked, "How long has this been going on?" My throat closed. I stumbled through half-truths, said it was emotional, just talking, nothing serious.
He didn't believe me.
He didn't need to. That message said everything. I could see the shift in his eyes, the moment trust died. I wanted to explain, to justify, but how do you explain betraying someone who's done nothing but love you? I didn't mention Ethan by name. I couldn't. It felt too cruel. But I think Daniel knew. The following days were silent. He moved into the guest room. We didn't speak unless we had to. Ethan kept calling, texting, telling me he was here if I needed him. I didn't respond. For the first time, I saw him clearly, not as my safe place, but as someone who had crossed every line and convinced me it was okay. The worst part? I let him. Daniel finally asked me to leave. He said he couldn't look at me without wondering what was true anymore. I packed my things, every movement heavy with regret. As I closed the door behind me, I felt something fracture permanently. Love doesn't always end with screaming. Sometimes it ends in silence, in the cold absence of what was once warmth. Ethan wanted us to continue. He said we were finally free now, that we could be together without guilt. I laughed, bitterly. Free? I felt chained to every wrong decision I'd made. I told him I couldn't do it anymore. That what we did wasn't love, it was escape. He didn't understand. He said I owed him more after everything we'd shared. That word, owed, made everything snap into place. He hadn't loved me. He'd used me, played on my trust, my loneliness, my vulnerability. I blocked his number, cut off all contact. I needed space to breathe, to face what I'd become. I lost Daniel. I lost Ethan. But more than anything, I lost the version of myself I used to be, the one who believed she'd never let something like this happen. The truth was brutal. I wasn't the victim. I was the one who allowed it all. And I had to live with that. It took losing everything to finally be honest with myself. For weeks, I sat with the silence. No calls from Daniel. No messages from Ethan. Just the hollow echo of my choices. I stopped trying to rewrite the story in my head. I stopped pretending it was just a mistake, or that I'd been tricked. The truth was clear. I wasn't loyal. I wasn't honest. I let someone in where no one else should have been allowed, and I did it knowing the damage it would cause. Not just to Daniel, but to myself. I thought about the moments that led me there, the quiet decisions, the subtle allowances, the things I justified in the name of comfort. I realized infidelity doesn't always look like a wild affair. Sometimes it looks like trust turning into entitlement. It looks like someone who knows your weak spots using them to get closer. I wanted to believe Ethan cared. Maybe a part of him did. But it wasn't love. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't push you to lie, to hide, to hurt others for its own gain. What we had was a bond built on history, not respect. And I mistook that for something deeper. I started going to therapy. I needed to unpack everything. The guilt, the betrayal, the parts of me that let it happen. It wasn't easy. Every session felt like ripping open a wound. But I stayed with it. Slowly, I started to understand how I'd abandoned myself long before I ever betrayed Daniel. I'd stopped asking for what I needed. I let resentment build. I chose the easier path instead of the honest one. And Ethan? He just stepped into the space I left open. Healing wasn't dramatic. It was small things. Waking up without shame. Answering messages without fear. Telling the truth when it hurt. I started writing again. Cooking for myself. Reconnecting with friends I'd pushed away during the chaos. I wasn't trying to be the person I used to be. I was trying to become someone better, someone who could look in the mirror without flinching. One night, I wrote it all out, every detail, every moment I ignored my conscience. I didn't do it to forgive myself. I did it to stop hiding. There's no redemption without truth.
I don't know where Daniel is now.
I haven't heard from him. I don't expect to. If he's happier, if he's whole again, I'm grateful. I don't need closure from him. I gave it to myself. To anyone listening, don't confuse closeness with safety. Don't let history blind you to harm. The deepest betrayals don't always come from strangers. Sometimes they were the face of someone you've trusted your whole life. I learned that too late. But I did learn. And now I move forward, not proud of my past, but no longer hiding from it.